Welcome to the Explainer. You know, when we think about artificial intelligence, we almost always picture the cloud. It feels, well, weightless, right? Invisible, completely virtual. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We are making the physical footprint of AI completely visible. Because from the keystrokes on your laptop all the way to massive global infrastructures, the actual physical cost of AI is pretty staggering. Okay, let's dive into this by starting small. What is the true cost of just one AI prompt? Seriously, think about it. Every single time you type a question into ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, you hit enter and boom, the answer magically appears in seconds. But behind that digital magic, there's a literal chain reaction of real-world physical resources being consumed in data centers miles away. Let's look at exactly what that microtransaction actually costs our physical world. So, the estimated electricity cost of an average ChatGPT query is about 0.34 watt-hours. To give you some context, that's roughly the energy your microwave uses in less than a second. Now, I know what you're thinking, that doesn't sound like a lot on its own, but this brilliantly illustrates the scale of the issue because millions of people are asking millions of questions every single day. And here's where it gets even more intense. If you ask an AI agent to perform a complex task, something that requires deep reasoning, that energy footprint can spike all the way up to 50 watt-hours for just one single request. But wait, electricity is really only half of the equation here. Researchers estimate that a single AI query consumes about 16 ounces of fresh water. That is essentially a standard plastic bottle of water, just consumed and evaporated into the atmosphere, literally just to cool down the servers processing your one question. When you multiply that by the millions of interactions happening globally every single hour, well, you start to see why this is a massive infrastructural challenge. Section 1, inside the AI factory. So moving from the micro scale of your individual prompt to the macro scale of these massive hardware factories required to process them all. To really grasp where all this power is going, we need to understand a key term, and that's inference. We hear a lot about the massive energy required to train an AI model, right? That can take thousands of processors running continuously for months. But tech experts point out that while training is absolutely intensive, it's actually inference, the continuous daily process of millions of us running queries on those already trained models, that likely dominates the overall power demand. Inference is the engine of the AI economy, and, it just never stops running.
Now, tech companies aren't just sitting on the sidelines here. They're actively battling this energy drain through some really intense hardware engineering. Starting with the NVIDIA V100 as a baseline, they moved to the A100, which was about 2.5 times more efficient. And now, we have the NVIDIA H100 GPU, which delivers roughly 3 times the performance per watt of the A100. By advancing the architecture this way, tech giants are trying to process way more data with less energy per operation. They're essentially trying to out-engineer the massive power demands of AI inference.
Section 2, the global power grid. So we have these highly efficient chips, sure, but we are using hundreds of thousands of them all at once. How does clustering all these advanced processors into massive data centers actually impact the world's electricity supply? Well, all data centers combined consume about 1.5% of the world's total electricity. To visualize that, 1.5% is equivalent to the entire annual electricity generation of the country of Germany. Now, within that global footprint, AI-specific data centers currently account for about 0.5% of global electricity. But because of the rapid adoption of AI, that specific segment is projected to grow incredibly quickly in the coming years. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the true challenge isn't actually the global volume. I mean, a global draw of 1.5% is manageable. The real problem is extreme geographic concentration. While the global average is relatively low, in the United States, data centers use 5% of all electricity. And over in Ireland, data centers account for more than 20% of the entire country's electricity consumption. No way, right? This intense, localized concentration puts just enormous strain on regional power grids. Section 3, the hidden water footprint. And it's not just the electrical grid feeling the heat here. As these concentrated hubs of servers draw massive amounts of power, they generate an incredible amount of heat, requiring a second absolutely critical resource to keep from literally melting down, and that is water. It is honestly staggering to realize that between 75% and 90% of global data centers primarily use water-based cooling. And what's even more surprising is that the vast majority of these facilities, they don't use recycled or gray water. They are hooked directly into local municipal water mains. This means they are using potable, drinking quality water to prevent their servers from overheating. This puts data center operators in a really difficult environmental trade-off. On one hand, evaporative cooling is highly energy efficient, which is fantastic for the power grid, but it consumes and evaporates massive amounts of fresh water. On the other hand, if you go with air cooling, well, that saves water, but it requires significantly more electricity to run all those compressors and fans. It's just a constant balancing act between conserving local water supplies and saving local electricity. And when operators do choose water cooling, it introduces some highly specific, localized environmental risks. Heavy pumping can actually lead to aquifer depletion, lowering the water tables for the local communities. There's also the risk of thermal pollution, that's discharging warm water back into lakes and rivers, which can seriously harm aquatic life. Furthermore, this cooling water is often treated with chemicals, things like corrosion inhibitors or even PFAS, which raises pretty big concerns about chemical discharge. Ultimately, it just creates direct competition with local municipal users, especially during times of drought.
Section 4. Extreme Solutions and Trade-offs.
Given this immense strain on local power grids and watersheds, the tech industry is realizing that standard utility setups simply aren't going to cut it anymore. To secure reliable, carbon-free energy for the future of AI, tech giants are undertaking some jaw-dropping infrastructural shifts. Get this, Microsoft has signed a 20-year agreement to purchase power from a single 835-megawatt nuclear reactor. This whole thing is backed by a $1 billion federal loan to Constellation Energy just to revive a currently shuttered nuclear plant. This massive investment is specifically designed to provide a dedicated carbon-free power source solely for Microsoft's expanding AI data center operations. And the specific location of this plant carries immense historical significance. This is the 3 Mile Island site in Pennsylvania. In 1979, Unit 2 experienced a partial meltdown. It was the worst nuclear accident in U.S. history. Now, Unit 1 continued to operate safely for decades until it was shut down for economic reasons in 2019. But now, in a highly unconventional move, Unit 1 is actually scheduled for a planned restart in 2027, driven entirely by the unprecedented energy demands of the AI industry. The U.S. government's perspective on this is very clear. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright stated that this move will, quote, ensure America has the energy it needs to grow its domestic manufacturing base and win the AI race. From the federal viewpoint, these sweeping and unconventional energy measures, including utilizing nuclear power, are seen as vital, necessary steps to maintain global technological and economic dominance in the age of artificial intelligence. We're just laying out the facts here, but it definitely shows how seriously this is being taken at the highest levels. So the crucial point is that while extreme measures like nuclear restarts are happening, the industry is also rapidly deploying practical, everyday solutions. Operators are right-sizing workloads, meaning, they don't use a massive H100 chip for a simple basic task. They are also shifting to direct liquid and immersion cooling, which is far more efficient than air or evaporative cooling. They're using carbon-aware scheduling to run training jobs in regions where the wind is blowing or the sun is shining. And finally, we are seeing new legislation pushing for strict transparency, essentially forcing data centers to publicly report their local water and power usage. So it really brings us to the ultimate question. Can our local grids and watersheds actually sustain the global AI arms race? Or will our digital footprint eventually outgrow our physical reality? Every single prompt we type connects the virtual cloud directly to the physical Earth. Understanding this connection is the very first step in ensuring that the incredible advancements of AI don't come at an unsustainable cost to our local communities. What do you think? It's definitely something to ponder the next time you hit enter.